Songs and Sit Downs, featuring Owen Dara. And here's Owen.
Oh, I so love that intro. Thank you, JJ Shock, for composing that and putting that intro together. That's the first time we've played it in its entirety. This is the third episode of Songs and Sit Downs. We're so glad to have you with us. We have a great show lined up for you. I want to say, first of all, welcome to everybody who's tuned in. I know we have some people watching now. Some people will be watching later. It's 7 p.m. our time on the West Coast. Southern California, very unusual day today. We actually had some rain, which is bizarre, but what's not unusual these days, right? I mean, you got to look at the news, and you got to not look at the news, which is kind of what I've been doing. It's more of the same, unfortunately, with some positive changes and some not so positive. But I've been reading stuff online. There's an article came across my newsfeed, and I was very excited about it. That Jupiter and Saturn apparently were lining up above a crescent moon on May 16th, and it was going to be a smiley face in the sky. And I was like, this is exciting. I even put in my calendar. And I went out on Saturday night, a couple of times to just go, I don't want to miss this. And I'm looking around the sky, and it didn't happen. Now, Dolly, if you have the photo, let's put it up. This is what came across my newsfeed, and this is what I thought that I was going to see in the sky, and what I think is going to come up on the screen, but it might not. We might have somewhat of a delay there. I always get worried about Dolly and JJ because they introduce me and they say, we're ready to go. Then they play the intro. And then I think to myself, oh, here it is. Okay. So I saw that was supposed to be in the sky, Saturn, Venus, and a crescent moon. And I was very excited. But then, of course, yeah, it upsets me, Dolly. You can take it down. What I was going to say there before is I get worried that Dolly and JJ, they bring me on and then they head out to the backyard and just hang out in the hammock and leave it all to the rest of us. But they're hardworking. I know they're there. Thank you, Dolly, for putting that up. You know, it was fake news, and I think I understand why. I think this planet is so oversaturated in fake news that they've had to start going to other planets. So that's what's going on now in our world and beyond our world, unfortunately. And I was disappointed, I admit. I don't usually get very excited about such cosmic events. Even if you remember a couple of years ago, we had that solar eclipse and everybody was so excited there, the solar eclipse, and we're not going to be able to see the sun and it's going to be the middle of the day. And I thought, all you got to do is go to Ireland for the summer. It's the exact same effect. Didn't really interest me, the solar eclipse. Any bit of sunshine that I get in my adulthood, considering the sunshine I did not get in my childhood, is more than welcome. So if they're going to block the sun, I'm like, okay, it's got to happen, but let's move on and get back to this beautiful sunshine that we generally experience in this part of the world. So another thing I came across was a meme, and I thought I have to share this with you. This made me laugh, and I thought it's very apt for its times. And I wish I could give credit to the person who posted it. So Dolly, if you got a chance, you could put that up there. And so this is it. Marijuana is legal. Haircuts are not. It took 50 years, but the hippies have finally won. Oh, that made me smile. Thank you, Dolly. And speaking of Dolly and JJ, who are backstage, and by backstage, I mean in their studio way over in Van Nuys. I'm in Pasadena myself. Let's go to Dolly and JJ, see how these guys are doing over there. Working hard for us as always. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hey, Owen.
How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well.
Good. So you're not out the back on the hammock yet. That's good news.
No, if we left you, if we abandoned you, I don't know. Who's going to put up the comments?
Who's going to put up the what?
Who's going to put up the comments?
Oh, that's true, because we need the comments. Look, one just came in from Jessica Lancaster with all these smiley faces. So we welcome all of your comments. Do we have any other announcements? Anything else going on in Divine Rebel Music that we want to talk about?
Just upcoming shows, but we'll handle that later.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, we got our 100 YouTube subscribers.
Congratulations.
Yay.
And thank you to our audience.
Yes, thank you everybody who took the time to do that. We're now, I think, at like 115. So
wow, congratulations.
Keep adding, yeah. So Owen, everybody actually out there, if we could please help Owen get to that point of getting 100 subscribers. Otherwise, he would be reading this.
What, hon, can
Oh,
you do youtube.com channel UCLA? Hey, actually, that's pretty cool. VQ5BZ. Okay, I say Z, you say, you see, I can't have this. You see, if you get 100 subscribers, you can change it to / whatever you want. So I could change it to / Owen Dara, and then we could
yes.
easily stream this this program also on my YouTube channel. So
Yes.
anybody out there, I've got 75 subscribers. If you could click subscribe, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
We're so close, people.
So close. And you know, then I don't have to say Z and people say Z. No, because people say that to me. I say Z and they're like, no, it's Z because it's zebra. And I say, no, it's Z because it's zebra. And I'm like, no, it's Z because it's zebra. Like that argument doesn't hold water where I'm from. Anyway, it's good to see you guys. And
so I will put this crazy YouTube address in the comments. If you guys could just take a second and click on it and subscribe, that would help him out a lot because we love Owen.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay.
We really appreciate it, and appreciate all the hard work you're doing. I always say, you know, without Dolly, it'd be just me and JJ like jamming on our instruments. I don't think we'd be doing much else, buddy. But she drives us. She makes us work hard and keeps us honest. It's pretty cool.
She sure
Who else is
does.
gonna do
She
it?
does. She's a tough CEO, but we're happy to have her. So,
Hey, Pat Nason.
yes, hi.
Hey, Paul McCarty.
All right, we're gonna get off here
Yep.
and let you do your deal.
Well,
okay?
good, Johnny. Yeah, we have to get to the guests because we have some
Yes.
incredibly good guests tonight. And we have Paul Zollo, critically acclaimed songwriter, photographer, author of several books. And he's done multiple interviews with some of the greatest songwriters in the world. I attended a seminar, actually, maybe it was about a couple of years ago now, at SongNet, run by Jimmy Yamagishi. And Paul was the special guest. And he talked for about 2 hours. And it was probably the best 2 hours of seminar in music that I've ever had. And so I was just so happy that he agreed to come on this show, and we're going to be able to continue our conversation. Hang around for that. And we also have Jessi Fisher, who's a Hollywood stunt woman, acrobat, ex Cirque du Soleil performer, great conversations, interesting person. And so hang around for them. In the meantime, I just want to go through the gig guide, let you know what's happening around town, because we're a program that supports music. We love musicians. We love audiences that go to see shows. We love the venues, and we love performing live. And so what's going on around town? Let me just check the gig guide over here. And that is, oh, yeah, nothing. It's empty. And if you've tuned in before either of the last two programs, you will know that we've done that joke before, and we will continue to do it, hopefully, for not much longer, because we're all looking forward to getting back to the live work and to seeing our great performances and meeting our audiences and jamming with each other, etc. So hopefully that'll happen soon. In the meantime, there are a lot of Facebook Lives that are happening and shows, and we'll be talking about those later in the program. So, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, those of you who are here right now. And we are going to go now to one of my favorite segments with probably my favorite person in the world. I've been locked down with her for the last 2 months, so she's really my only person in the world right now. So what choice do I have but to say she is my favorite? So this is On the Upside with Jessica Lancaster.
Hey guys, this is Jessica Lancaster with On the Upside. I think that with everything going on in the world right now, that it's really important to focus on the positive things in life. So during quarantine, sometimes all we can do is just walk around our block, and that could get a little bit boring. Well, I have a way of spicing it up. Why don't you try walking silly? There is a new Instagram trend that I am obsessed with. People are posting signs in their front yard saying, "You have now entered the ministry of silly walks. Commence silly walking immediately." Now that sounds very official. See, I would obey that sign. This actually is inspired by Monty Python's 1970 sketch, Ministry of Silly Walks. Now, if you don't know the sketch, I recommend that you immediately go to YouTube and watch it because it is friggin' hilarious. I mean, not now. Now you're watching the show. I mean, later, after the show, watch it. And if you still need some inspiration, I recommend checking out at Yorkshire Silly Walks and at Valencia Silly Walks on Instagram. It's so funny. Did somebody say goats? Somebody definitely said goats. 200 goats busted out of their enclosure and ran loose through a San Jose neighborhood. The goats are used to eat the dry brush surrounding the town to help prevent forest fires. Well, they were over the shelter in place and decided to take to the streets to protest. That, or they were just looking for a little adventure. The verdict is still out on that one. Anyway, seriously, when can the goats visit my hometown? They're pretty amazing. Thank you to Colin across the street who sent that video in for us. Now, this next one is for all of the moms out there. How do you explain to a toddler that he can't play with his best friend next door? Well, this mom found a way around it. Amy Vickers in Wakefield, Yorkshire, turned a section of their garden fence into a window. So this way, the little friends can play next to each other without touching each other. That is so adorable. Can we say Mom of the Year? And finally, I want to do a shout out to my neighbor, Sarah. She is a chalk artist and has created this amazing Mother Earth yin yang in her driveway. Every day I walk Strudel multiple times a day and I pass it and it brings me so much joy. I know it's raining today and I think it's going to get a little bit sad, but I just wanted to just let her know that it's just amazing. So yay, Sarah. If you come across some good news this week and you want to share it, please send us your good news and we will spread the joy. All right, now it's time for the weather report with Strudel. Oh, Strudel does not look very happy. Okay, well, Strudel, take it away.
And here's Strudel. Strudel, what is the weather report? See, he's tongue-tied because it's always so sunny. He doesn't really understand what happened today because Strudel is still a puppy and he hasn't really experienced rain like we have. Have you, poor Strudel?
He's very grumpy about it.
Yeah, he's grumpy. But fortunately, we recorded Strudel talking about the weather earlier.
Yes, we did.
Hi, I'm Strudel, and the weather today is weird. Like, I woke up this morning and everything was wet, and wet stuff was falling from the sky, and I don't like it at all. So I like to be the one to make things wet outside. That's my job. So anyway, I hope that this doesn't happen again. And I hope everybody's okay with all the wet stuff. Okay, that's the weather. And okay, bye.
I do love that dog. And he's a good weather dog. He actually had to work today because it was raining. And I don't think he'd ever experienced rain. You know, he actually went out and he didn't understand what was falling on him. He thought maybe we were throwing water on him. So he kept looking at us like, what are you doing to me? And it was just rain falling from the sky. I'm going to take him to Washington during the winter and then he'll appreciate his life, the young ruffian. So we're going to move on. As I said, we've got great guests tonight. And our first guest is a Michigan native who's now a Hollywood stunt woman. She's appeared in numerous TV shows and films, including the most recent Terminator film, Terminator Dark Fate, in which she performed the stunts of Sarah Connor, played, of course, by Linda Hamilton. Please welcome Jessi Fisher.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Jessi. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you again.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we were just so happy that you agreed to come on the show. You know, you've been part of so many iconic films and Cirque du Soleil too. You were Cirque du Soleil performer, and you're in Florida right now. Is that right?
I am. Yeah. We decided to get away a little bit and work on a house that we've been needing to do some work on for a while. So perfect time.
Great. So all productions shut down basically. So you're just
They
at home?
have. They have. Yep. We're just waiting to hear what the protocol will be for everything to get started filming again. In fact, my boyfriend was over in Germany when the whole thing happened, and they sent everybody home, closed everything down, and said, we'll let you know when we start up again. So
Right.
we're waiting.
And he's actually a stunt double for Matt Damon, isn't
He
that right?
is. He is. Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, a bunch of
my
those
God.
guys. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to mess with him. You when you guys come out to LA, I want you to come out with me and Jess to be our stunt doubles in case anybody messes with us. 'Cause it's just like, well, no, I can't really do anything, but my stunt doubles are going to kick your ass if you mess with us.
Yeah, we get asked that a lot. So
I'm sure. Well, please. I wonder how you practice at times like this, because gyms are closed, and now as musicians, we're not doing our gigs, but at least we can pick up our instrument and practice at home and work on material. Do you ever find yourself climbing up the back porch and jumping off the roof at home?
Once in a while.
Really?
Sometimes our neighbors probably walk by and wonder what the heck's going on. But
oh my God,
no,
you actually do?
It depends. It depends. Yeah. Well, funny story. We were actually working out in our garage the other day, and we didn't have any equipment for like lifting weights or anything like that. So we decided to get creative, and my boyfriend picked me up like a fireman's carry over his shoulders and started to do squats and lunges and stuff like that, and with me hanging out roped up. And yeah, I think some of our neighbors were a little bit curious what that was about, but
yeah,
hey,
Well, if anybody's patrolling the neighborhood looking for a place to break in, they're like, okay, that's
right, not that one.
we're not going in there. Because in Florida, I guess you guys are preparing for retirement. Are you kind of checking it out so that like in years to come, you end up?
That is true. That is true. Everyone from Michigan retires in Florida anyways. That's just,
yeah,
common practice. So yeah, I think we'll get there eventually.
Because you grew up in Michigan, and I guess your winters there are very harsh. So
brutal.
Brutal. And you spent, what was it, 5 years out in LA?
I did. Yeah, almost 6 years in LA, and then before that, I was in Vegas for 5 years. So I've grown accustomed to the nice warm weather. So.
Yeah, and that was Cirque du Soleil, was Vegas, right? So you were
correct.
in a resident show in Vegas.
Yes. Yep. I performed at the Bellagio. I did the O show, which is the water show. If anyone has ever been out there and had a chance to see it, it was pretty fantastic to be a part of that. So
yeah, I would imagine that's the pinnacle for an acrobat to get into that show, to want a Cirque du Soleil show.
It was for me. It definitely was. I think that's what a lot of performers aspire to get to, and it did not disappoint. It was pretty much one of the best times of my life, and the memories I'll always have those. So.
I'm so happy to hear that. I know that I have a friend who toured for a while with that company, and I think it was more difficult as being a touring member. And now you got to set me straight on this if I'm wrong, and answer me honestly. Were you a carny?
Guilty as charged. Yes, I have absolutely been a carny. Back before I did Cirque du Soleil or any stunts, I did a lot of live shows. I do have a gymnastics background growing up. That's kind of what I was into, and I competed when I was younger and in high school and stuff like that. Actually wasn't very good, believe it or not. I didn't compete like internationally. I didn't go to the Olympics or anything like that. But I did have a love for performing, and I remember going to various theme parks and state fairs as a kid and watching these shows and these performers, flip around and do all this stuff. Even the Harlem Globetrotters, I remember going to watch and going, oh, I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
And eventually I ended up doing just that. I got into a lot of live shows, and a lot of them were smaller, really sketchy shows, and we would do a bunch of shows in a parking lot at some state fair, and then we would tear down and go to the next city and do it again. It was fantastic.
Wow, absolute respect. Absolute respect. And did you ever think at that time, because I believe you were a fan of Terminator growing up, Linda Hamilton's character, Sarah Connor, was one of your idols, right?
I just wanted to be her. I don't know what girl at that, era didn't want that, I think I was Sarah Connor about 5 years in a row for Halloween. Yeah.
Oh wow! And there
So
you
yeah,
are on the actual Terminator
yeah.
movie. Oh,
Yes, yeah, that was it.
well, I can tell up this close which one is you. But in the movie, is
Mhm,
there when you watch these movies? Because I know you've
mhm.
stunted in a lot of TV shows and in movies. Do you ever recognize yourself? Do you ever see it and go, ah, that's me. I
Oh,
see the
absolutely.
profile. Really?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I know which ones I did,
Right.
so there's that. But it is getting incredibly more difficult these days because they
Mhm.
can now do full face replacement with
Ah,
CG.
I
So
see.
they will literally put her head or her face on my body. And
Oh,
so it looks like she's the one doing it. So it is
and
getting a little harder to tell.
that's the most exciting part of these action movies is the stunts. So, do you ever ask for the reel, the stunt cut reel, like they have the director's cut and you can have the stunt
Yes.
cut where it's all your face and
Yes.
everything. Do you have that footage?
Once in a while, we get some behind the scenes footage.
Okay.
Once in a while, because a lot of stuff that we do, unfortunately, doesn't make the cut. I'm sure that happens with everybody in every scene because
Yeah.
they film way more than they actually need.
Yes.
But once in a while, we get some really great footage, and you're like, "Oh, I remember that fall. That one really hurt." And then that's, of
Yeah.
course, the one they didn't make the movie.
And when you say something hurts, like, do you carry those bruises like is it sort of like a badge of honor to have a certain bruise from a certain film?
I would say so. Yes. Yeah. There's a
Really?
lot of. They're all good stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you and your
But
boyfriend ever in competition to see who can get injured the most?
I think we're in competition of who's the toughest.
Okay.
The goal is to not get injured, but if you
Yes.
do, you can walk away with it, away from it the best. So that's usually the competition.
Right. I know that's the thing. I mean, oh, look at you. Speaking of jumping off a building. Now, I hope that's not your
Yeah.
home in Florida and your neighbors are right
No.
under you.
No, but
Wow.
don't be surprised if that happens soon.
Wow. What movie is that?
This was actually a documentary for a film I did in Las Vegas. And believe it or not, that building is made out of 100% recycled materials.
Wow.
And funny story, they had to reinforce the ledge on that before I jumped off because it wasn't strong enough to support my weight. So
Oh
thankfully
my.
we researched that ahead of time before I did that. But it was
Yeah.
kind of a cool thing.
Wow, that's kind of scary when they're protecting the ledge more than the stunt person. But I guess it is for your protection. But
Yes.
when you're falling like that, I mean, so few of us. I mean, I have never experienced anything like that. I mean, as a kid, one of my dreams was to be a stuntman. Like I would see, Burt Reynolds in Hooper was a TV
Right.
movie he did, and the stunts in that were just phenomenal. And he played a
Yeah.
stuntman, and then there was the Fall
Yeah.
Guy with Lee Majors,
Yeah,
and
of course.
it all
Oh,
just looked
yeah.
like so much fun. But then, I kind of grew up and I thought, I kind of got over it a little, but you never stopped being an adrenaline junkie. Is that what's going on?
I think that is definitely part of it. I think there's something in us that's maybe a little off,
Right.
but
Oh my God.
yeah. Case in point.
Jessi, what do you mean a little off? That's more than a little off right there. That is you on fire?
It is me on fire. I think that's one of the best fire burns I've done in my career. That was a good one.
Well,
That was actually for a prank show, believe it or not.
Is that right? So it's a
Mhm.
prank show. How did that work? How did it key into the story?
Oh, it was fantastic. The main character wanted to bring her friend onto a cooking show,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had this elaborate prank set up with my fire burn, and I was just supposed to be a background set person helping out with their cooking things, and then somehow get caught on fire by one of the stoves that he accidentally left on. So it was a whole big thing, and and I feel really bad for the kid because I think he might have been scarred for life from that.
Well,
But afterwards, of course, we all explained that I was fine, and we had a big stunt planned, and everything was great, and I was safe. And yeah.
well, that the young minds that we ruin for entertainment, that's
I know.
part of the
I
business.
know.
But it's
I
incredible.
know.
So you're obviously you have protective gear on your back,
Yes.
and they said, what is it? The kerosene. What do they put on there to set fire?
Well, we actually saturate our clothing in a fire gel that's designed specifically to not ignite or catch on fire. And then we have fire-resistant clothing itself, the materials. We can't use anything synthetic. We have to use 100% cotton materials because that also does not burn as much as synthetic. And then we apply a fuel that's usually almost like a rubber cement type of, not like a kerosene, it's not usually liquid because then it will stay in
forgive
place
my
better.
ignorance. I know.
No, that's okay.
And
well, to be fair, I'm sure they used a lot of different materials back in the day, So.
Thank you, Jessi. You're so gracious to cover over my ignorance. I appreciate it. And so before a moment like that, before you're about to jump off a building or before you're about to be set on fire in somebody's kitchen, do you get excited? Are you nervous? What's the feeling?
It's always a little bit of nervous excitement. I think you have to respect what you're about to do. The minute you're not nervous about something like that, then maybe you should rethink what you're doing because it's However, just a small story about that actual moment right before you're about to do a stunt like that. A few months ago, I went into a copy center to make some copies of my resume, and I handed it to the gentleman working at the copy center, and he was kind of bored with life, and he was not happy to be there at work that day and was printing out my resume. He kind of picked it up and he was kind of looking at it, and he kind of looked at me and he was looking at it. He goes, is this your resume? And I was like, well, yes, that's my photo on the front there. And he just kind of looked at it again and kind of to himself said, what am I doing with my life? And
my God.
It was really funny because when he said that, I laughed because usually the moment right before you get set on fire or right before you're about to jump off a building, that's the thought that sometimes goes through my mind. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah. Well, I know it. Oh my, what are you doing with Is this from a zombie movie or what is this?
This is from The Walking Dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were a zombie on fire jumping out of a building or something?
All of the above. Yeah, it just depends on the day.
Oh my God. How wonderful. I know performers get that also. Is there that moment before you go on stage, especially, stand-up comedians or whatever, you're just, I talk to other comedians about that, and it's just like, why do I do this? What is this? And then once you're in the show, once you're on stage with your band or, whatever it is, you're just like, of course, this is why I do this. I love it. And you feel
right.
That moment.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly. And that's the thing too, is that, yes, you're a little bit nervous and excited, but we are also very trained. Now, the one thing I have to put out there about stunt people is we are not just adrenaline junkies. We are not crazy people that just want to risk our lives and, throw ourselves into situations we don't know what we're doing. We are, believe it or not, exceptionally highly trained and know every risk that's about to happen to us, and we are prepared for that and have a really good safety team and a really good plan should something go wrong. We are professionals.
And now there are a lot of wires to protect you too that they can erase in film, so it's safer than it used to be.
Yep, absolutely.
What do you think about this push for stunt people to be recognized in Oscars? Are you in the Academy? Are you involved in any of that?
I have definitely signed petitions. I am definitely in support of that. I have said this before, stunt people didn't take this job for the fortune and glory and the fame and the recognition. We like being behind the scenes. We like being the one to do the things and maybe not show our face on camera, and that's fine, However, to be completely ignored by an industry that I think that we're a big part of is a little bit of a slap in the face. So it would be really great to at least get a little bit of a category mentioned, maybe,
Yeah, because these movies would not happen without you. We couldn't have these great action movies, like Terminator or The Bourne Identity or any of these great films that you and your partner so graciously entertain us with. I have to ask this question. Did you get to punch Schwarzenegger when you were on set at any time?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to punch him, but I almost landed on his head once. So that was good.
Wow.
It was a good day.
And did he turn and go, I'll be back? Was he upset with you about that?
I think I heard that a few times on set, yeah, and get to the chopper and all those wonderful things.
Oh,
No, I
my
was sliding right towards him, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, your wire is going to stop you right before that impact part." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, let's hope so, because that's going to be my last job if it doesn't." So.
Yeah. And the end of Arnold, you know, I mean, I didn't vote for him, but you know, I still admire the guy.
Right.
You know, to move on. So it's funny. I saw Schwarzenegger up close one time, and I was like, he's not that tall. You know, it started going through my mind because he seems like this monster, right? He's like this huge guy. And I saw him at this event, and he was probably about 5 feet away. And I swear, I'll admit this to you. What went through my head was, first of all, I was like, oh my God, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then I thought, I could probably take him. Like if you know, if they're just a lucky punch just from the right angle, I could probably just suck a punch and run. But you know, that honestly went through my head, and then I thought the better of it, and I was like, but he seemed like a decent fella. He was with his kids. He's a family guy, and you know, it was very funny actually because it was when his kids were pretty young, and he had his kids with him, and I'm looking at him, and I said hello, and he says hello. And then he goes, he turns to his daughter and goes, Catherine, get in the car. And I was like, oh my God.
He really talks like that,
yeah. he really sounds like his character. You know? And
it's true.
Like his kids are not going to be, no, Dad, I'm not getting in the car. Anybody who's seen his movies, but so exciting that you get to live your dream, and you know that you're doing this. I mean, of course, you're on hiatus right now, but so you're working on right now. You worked on Suicide Squad. Has that already finished? Suicide Squad 2?
I'm not sure if they've actually finished everything. They finished the parts that we were working in a few months ago. They may be in post-production. They may still have a few pickup shots to get before all this went down. I'm not really sure.
Okay. But you've done most of it, and also Stranger Things, which is a great show.
Yes. I got on the new season of Stranger Things, which was really fun. That was so much fun. I wish I could tell you the actual stunt that I did, but it was one of the most interesting and fun ones I've done in a long time. So
it's secretive right now, but we'll have you back next year, and we'll grill you again.
Well,
you know, Jessi, we've run out of time, but I think people would really like to see your reel. Do you mind if we play your reel?
That'd be fine. Absolutely.
You also worked on NOS 4A2, is that right?
NOS 4A2, yep.
It sounds like my current URL for my YouTube channel that I'm trying to change to Owen Dara, but I need 25 more subscribers.
Right.
Well, anyway, Jessi, it's so good chatting to you. We've run out of time, but we'll talk again soon. And thank you for your work, and you're always a joy to see you and to talk to you, and I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is great. All right. Take care.
And here's Jessi Fisher's reel. It's her jumping off a piano. Wow. It's lucky we're not cutting back to Jessi because I have many, many more questions. So hopefully we'll get her back on the show again. What an incredible life experience and an incredible reel. And for our entertainment, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Jessi Fisher. We look forward to talking to you again, hopefully soon. We're going to go now to our resident expert, JJ Shock. If you may remember from last week, he made this incredible video about sound and how to get good sound when we're live streaming. And it was so educational. It got shared many, many times. And this week, I believe he has a new video for us, and I have no idea what it is. Welcome our resident expert, JJ Shock.
Hi there. This is a follow-up to the previous video on how to get the best sound while live streaming. I've learned a few more things since I made the first video, and I wanted to share them with you right now. In the previous video, I talked about how using a wired internet connection is superior to Wi-Fi because your music will be richer sounding. Well, it also turns out that not all home internet connections are the same. For example, if you're getting your internet using a cable TV company like Spectrum or Comcast Infinity, you're not going to get the same true speed as you will with a fiber optic connection from AT&T or Verizon or Frontier. Here's why. Cable internet shares your connection with about 500 other users in your neighborhood. And during peak times like dinner and evening, when most people are watching Netflix and gaming, you get a fraction of the internet speed the cable company promised you. It's like sharing a bucket of water with 500 people. Meanwhile, fiber optic is almost dedicated just to you. It's like having a huge lake of data just for you and maybe a few others. The speed difference and richness of sound can be dramatic. I hope this makes your next live streaming show sound even better. Thank you.
Wow, that was incredibly educational. Thank you, JJ Shock, for that follow-up video. Information that I never knew. I've had the wrong carrier. I have cable internet here, and I've had that for several years. So thank you. I think I will switch. And JJ Shock there also demonstrating that haircuts are, in fact, illegal. Looking good, my friend. Thank you, JJ Shock. Hopefully we'll have another video from our resident expert, JJ, next week. Now, speaking of, well, actually, I wasn't speaking of, but how do you segue into tips and sponsors? Last couple of weeks, we said a word from our sponsors, and then there was a long, awkward pause because we actually don't have any sponsors because it's new. But we had some people donate money to the show to help keep this going, and we really appreciate that. We like to share with our musical guests just so they feel appreciated for performing on the show. And so if you would like to put something in the tip jar, Dolly's going to put up the link and you can check in with that and donate towards the show. Divine Rebel Music, all tips are appreciated and shared with our musical guest. And there's the links right there. So thank you so much. But most of all, thank you for tuning in. We know it's difficult times for many people, so we appreciate your presence. We know you have a lot of choices. So thanks for being with us tonight. Now, this next segment, we got, you know what? I got a call during the week, very early in the morning, and my next guest, we had to pre-record this. He wanted to come live on the show, and I was like, this guy, you're going to see what I mean, why we had to pre-record this, and we couldn't give this guy a live mic. Check this out. This is Tony the friggin' clown. So, Tony the friggin' clown, you're in Rhode Island, is that right?
I am in Rhode Island. I'm in Cranston at the moment. I was going to pick up some hot wieners for dinner, bring them back, but they do make me gassy, so I'm a little concerned about that. You know, maybe I'll go easy on the onions or something.
Okay, well, that's probably a good idea. And I see you're wearing a face mask. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, I take this very serious. You know, I do what I can to protect myself, protect other people. Yeah, sure, I'm kind of a douchebag, but I'm not that much of a douchebag.
Well, you seem like a very caring guy, you know.
Yeah, I can. Whoa. What are we got going on here now? You didn't say you got broads over there? What the? You are playing way out of your league, my friend. Hey there, how you doing, sweet thing?
I'm good. It's a little early for this, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, why don't you go get me a cup of coffee and we'll talk about it.
Oh my God, are you serious?
So this is Jessica.
All right.
I'm going back to bed. You guys be quiet.
Oh, you're pulling that kind of. Oh my God. All right, brother. I got newfound respect for you.
Well,
My word.
well, like I said, Tony, you got to come out to Pasadena, California.
I guess I do. These Rhode Island wash rags ain't cutting it. I tell you what.
Well, tell me something about Rhode Island. You seem like an unhappy sort of dude in general. Is there something?
Oh, the girl scene out here ain't nothing like you got going on.
Really?
Girls out here they got a terrible accent. They're like, hey, you want to blow? Just the accent alone, you're like, let me think about it. I don't think so. And usually you have sex in your car out here. That's where most of it takes place. And not girls are impressed when you got shoes.
Tony, can you let us know a little bit more about what you're doing in your life these days during the pandemic?
Well, I started crafting my own masks for other people, experimenting with things, seeing what works, what doesn't. Turns out a slice of bread does not make a very good mask. Wool tends to be too itchy. An old sock, not so bad. You staple it in the back and you can get a couple hours out of that.
Now, what do you think about all these people that are out there not wearing masks while you're wearing one?
I gotta say, if I'm being nice, I hope they freaking horrible COVID. If you're gonna walk around and not protect other people, well then, may God strike you down if you believe in such silliness as God.
That's good. We've taken a little bit of a dark turn there, and thank you so much, Tony, for tuning in.
I hope they.
Okay. We accept no responsibility, no liability for what just may or may not have happened. Tony, the friggin' clown, phoned us up early in the morning and said, I'm doing the show now. And basically, we hope he comes back. What an entertaining fella. And what a good insight on life. That was Tony, the friggin' clown. Now we're going to move on to a segment that we've seen the last couple of weeks, and we got something brand new, and you're really going to enjoy this one. This is Bites and Booze with Darcy Lynn.
Hey everyone, I don't have much time today. I'm late for a meeting at work. I had a rough night last night. I don't know how many shots I can take from that Tiger King saying, that bitch Carol Baskin. Wow. So I'm going to show you a Bloody Mary recipe mix for when you need a quick pick-me-up in the morning after a long night. So first things first, hair of the dog. Any kind of vodka will do. We're going to take some ketchup. Like I said, it's quick. A couple squirts in there. Some Tabasco for spiciness and energy. A couple grinds of freshly ground pepper. And I don't have time for bacon, so this hot dog will have to do. Celery for sustenance. Give a quick stir. And the most important thing, a coffee mug. Because you do not want people to know your secret. Am I right? Here we go. All right. Don't worry. I'm going to show you a real Bloody Mary mix for your next brunch or hangover party. Gotta go. All right, everyone, I'm back. I just had to go get some coffee.
Thank you, Darcy Lynn. So apparently, Bloody Mary is the new coffee. I see a comment there. Some of the comments come up. I see that more Tony. Pat Nason is demanding more Tony. Of course, Pat, and we're happy to oblige. We will get Tony in next week, especially for you and all his fans. I'm sure he's got many fans after tonight. And speaking of Pat, Pat's one of our sponsors, and thank you so much to him and all the people who have, and I believe we're going to scroll some names there just to honor some people who have helped us out. And thank you so much. And those are all the names there. Wow. Thank you. Charles and Michael and Laura and Pat and Kathy, Colin, Nalini, Philip, Jeffrey, Deb. Oh, it's just going to keep scrolling. Christy, Karina, William, Kathleen, John, Louis or Louis, Marta, Jessica, we really appreciate you. I think I missed Deb and Lisa right there in that lot, and Jeffrey and Phil Harrington. Wow. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Now we're going to move along to our extra special musical guest tonight. This is a guy, as I said in my introduction, who I've admired for a long time. I've learned a lot from him, from his writings, from his speaking, from his musical prowess, from his songs, his own songwriting. He is not only a singer-songwriter, a Chicago native, he's a photographer, he's the editor of American Songwriter magazine, and he's also the author of several books, including Songwriters on Songwriting. It's about 5,000 pages. I might be exaggerating slightly, but I think it's close. Conversations with Tom Petty and Hollywood Remembered. He's written songs with so many great artists. He's written a lot of solo songs too, but he's co-written with people like Daryl Purpose, Dan Byrne, and of course a previous guest that we had on the show just last week, the great Severn Brown. And up to this point, Paul Zollo has released 2 solo albums of his own songs, and I know he's been working on some new material. So hopefully there's going to be a lot more to come. And we're going to start introducing Paul by showing just a little clip of his music. This is a video clip that was filmed at Kulak's Woodshop on a night that Paul was sharing the bill with Dan Byrne, also a prolific songwriter. And on this tune, Paul, he's accompanied by Earl Grey, and it's a Paul Zollo original song titled Dandelion. Paul Zollo. And I guess dandelions are in season. Strangely, my dog Strudel, who you met earlier, you know those dandelion things, what it is, you blow them and you make a wish? He eats those. So, like he gets like these fur balls that cats get. And so he goes out and he eats the tops of those and he swallows them. And I'm sure the song is nothing about that, but those of you who've been to Kulak's Woodshed, it's a great venue. It's Severn Brown, at least he was. I think he may be doing a once a month thing when we come back from the lockdown. And so hopefully, but you'll get a sense of what Kulak's is about from this video. And I believe I was just filling time there with talking about my dog and Kulak's, but happy to do it. I think we're ready to go now with the video. Paul Zollo.
She's a friend. I say yes, and then the next day you get really strange things on you. Okay, Earl Grey. This is called Dandelion. To hear the drums. Fly downtown with your silver tone crown and your Panama hat, dreaming of the palace of Versailles when your world is a laundromat. 16 tons in the rhododendron garden of your vanity, going down, 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 down to the bottom of the boundless sea. Singing, shine, shine, dandelion with your heart of gold. Looking for somewhere that's warm in a world so old and cold. Every day is a tightrope walk along a razor wire. Shine, shine, dandelion, light the night on fire, fire, fire. Light the night on fire. He testifies like John the Revelator in the Texas heat, looking for a dude he can trust in the dust of old Willow Street. Everywhere is gone but the fingertips of dawn on St. Lucy's lips.
Wow, what an abrupt end to that video. But I'm sure there's much more to that song, and you can check it out online. Paul's YouTube channel. He's got so many other songs on there, great songs from over his years as a songwriter, from his 2 albums and beyond. And I would like to introduce the man himself now. Please welcome Paul Zollo.
Hey, hello.
Hey, Paul, it's
here.
good to see you.
It's good to see you. Well, thanks for having me here. Thanks
Of
to
course,
Dolly
well,
and JJ.
As I said earlier, I was so happy you were coming on the show. I see quarantine is doing wonders for your beard. It's looking nice and thick.
Well, I actually trimmed it for the first time since being in lockdown.
Oh,
Lockdown
you
doesn't
did?
really encourage a lot of hygiene, but it's like it's time to look in the mirror and deal with this. So
Well, I think when I
it
saw
was
you.
it was down to here, if you recall. It was
Oh,
really
wow.
low.
I think I saw when I saw you a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, you were clean shaven. So I was
No,
like,
no, no. You did not see me clean shaven.
did I not?
You're
It was pretty
mistaken.
close, though.
The
Pretty
last
close.
time I shaved was in 1980, I believe.
Well, I don't think it's been that long since I've seen you. Tell me, so in this lockdown, I know we're all sort of staying to ourselves. Are you getting to see your son at all?
I am. He's the one person I do get to see because we live very close together. And he actually came over and cooked me dinner. He cooked lobster.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
not just anything. Lobster is
No.
pretty good. He's a good cook.
Wow. So he's a chef. Does he also play music?
He doesn't play music. He's a filmmaker.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's an
But
excellent filmmaker.
wow, that's great. But of course, he appreciates music. He has to, being
He
in your
loves
family.
music. He loves music. He played the shaker in my band quite
Oh,
a lot, and other percussion.
yeah. So he plays music, the shaker, percussion.
It's
Those
not
are.
his passion though. He's a filmmaker, but right now he's working on a podcast with Tom Segura, Your Mom's House, and
Yeah.
he's taken over that. He's like worked his way in there, and he's loving working there.
Oh, that's great. Now, when you were a kid, you were supported in your music. Your parents were very supportive of your desire to play music, right?
Fortunately, yeah, they were very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
My dad really appreciated the artistic life. He was a writer too, and yeah, both my parents were very supportive. My dad could be very critical though, but that was good for me because he let
That
me
is,
know. Yeah, he
yeah,
let me know
that,
when he didn't think something was original. He would say that's trite, and it took me years before I came up with something he didn't find trite.
oh, but that's fantastic. I mean, how are we ever? Because I mean, you started when you were very young. You were like 10 or something when you started writing. I mean,
Yes.
I could barely put a sentence together when I was 10, not to mind play an instrument or write a song. So you always knew from a very young age that music is where you were going and songwriting was your passion.
Yeah, from about 10 and 11 on, that was it. For a
Wow.
while there, it was that or astronaut.
Hmm.
Astronauts, but pretty soon I realized I don't want to go into outer space. I'd rather go in like a recording studio. That sounded much better. And playing songs, and songs have just been the most exciting thing in my life. Hearing songs, great songs that have moved me, and writing songs and performing songs. I mean, to this day, there's nothing that's more fun and more exciting and electric to me.
Well, I guess that's who you are. And I read a review somewhat recently when they were talking about your album and just saying you're just a guy that writes songs and sings songs because that's who you are. There's no other reason, right? Do you remember that quote about you?
I do. I think Rip
Oh,
Rents wrote that. It was a great writer, but that's really what it comes down to. Songwriters, no matter what, we'd still keep writing songs. It's what we do. If
yeah.
that's what it's the best way I'd have of making sense out of life, and it's fun, and it's also the only thing in life that you could just about get perfect. You can just work on a song till it's just right.
And you do that. You write and you rewrite your songs. You take the art very seriously, right?
I do, but I find that fun. But I'm not like so. Occasionally, I'll write a song quickly, but like some people do. You can write great songs that way, but I'm more the other way, like Leonard Cohen, that I'll write 70 verses and then cut out, most of them. But
Yeah.
it's also an obsession.
Yeah, and I know you were saying too that like Tom Petty, because I know you wrote that book Conversations with Tom Petty, and you and Tom became very close. You said, I remember you saying at one point that he doesn't put a song on the album unless he's really happy with it. Like he'll rework and rework the songs, and then if it's not up to his standard, it just doesn't ever see the light of day. Is that right?
That's exactly true. And there's a nice picture. Henry Diltz took that of Tom and I. That
Oh,
was at the time of Wildflowers, and Henry was there to take Tom's picture. He's such a sweet guy. He goes, Paul, get in one, and I'm so glad he did.
oh
But yeah,
wow.
Tom had very high standards. He loved writing songs, and he would have his A songs and his B songs. And the
Hmm.
B songs were not good enough to get on an album, but he'd work on them. And
Hmm.
he had this thing called modular songwriting, where every part of the song, the bridge, the intro, the riff, the melody, it all has to be equally good. If there's any one part that's not as good, like if the bridge is weak, that's not getting on. And he had
Right.
very high standards, and he never let his standards down, which, he went
Well,
for 40 years of really amazing work.
yeah, and it's admirable. And I know you get invited to talk about Tom at festivals and stuff, and you get to cover his music in front of Tom Petty's fans, which must be
Mhm.
an amazing experience.
It is, I go to Gainesville. It's like I'm the mayor there.
Yeah,
It's just
that's right.
it's the most wonderful place. They really love Tom, but Tom's fans are really sweet, wonderful
Mhm.
people. I mean, they love Tom, but they're grounded and they're good people. And I think it kind of reflects Tom's music because it was all about purity and truth. It wasn't about style or, I mean, there was style, but it wasn't about a pose. It was always true and pure. And his fans are that way too. And I feel very lucky that I got to be the guy to write that book with him. And, and it's actually Dana, his wife's birthday today. And, I knew him before he was with Dana, and she came into his life and became a much happier person.
Wow.
He wrote the song Angel Dream for her the night they met, though they didn't get together for years. And he said, true love, I didn't think it was real, and love at first sight. But so, so it was nice to see him, so happy, with Dana. He was a happy man.
Yeah, because he's had some challenges in his life too. I mean, I know he had a fire out at his house and lost a lot of stuff. So, but anyway, so you mentioned
just if I might say, the fire started by a crazy fan. It wasn't an accidental fire.
No, really.
It was a fire that a stalker started. But Tom intelligently had his wife, kids, and housekeeper jump in the swimming pool, saved them, but lost pretty much everything else.
But he saved his family. That's amazing.
He saved his family. That's the important part.
That's the most important thing. And also, speaking of stalkers, this leads me into
we got one
Bob
here tonight?
Dylan. Who, if I knew where he lived, I'd be stalking him for sure. But he's a guy that seems to, what I've read about him, and I read his memoir recently, and he was hounded by the press and by fans. And he woke up one time, he came home and there was a couple having sex in his bed or something. And so
I hate when that happens. Don't you?
I know, yeah, I know. Well, may we all be such legends one day that people come and have sex in our beds. So when you met with Bob Dylan, it was actually a really good experience. He was very open to you, wasn't he?
He was. I'll take credit for it. No, he was in a really good place. And the reason he did the interview was because I only asked questions about songwriting and creativity and art, no personal questions. And he appreciated that focus. He had read my interviews with Paul Simon that were very in-depth. And so they agreed to do it. And so he was ready for that. And songwriters generally love to talk about songwriting, but they're not always asked about it. I mean, if you read his old interviews, they're fascinating. But he goes, it's strange. People ask me about everything. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a...
Yeah.
And they said, well, what should they ask you about, Bob? And he said, maybe music, So when we talked, I asked him about chords and lines out of context and songwriting and rhymes, all of it. And that's where the man lives.
Yeah.
But it's the same with all the songwriters I've spoken to. They rarely get a chance to really talk about the process. And they're experts on that, especially music. I mean, both, but to talk about music is rare. And they love that opportunity because that's where a lot of their genius is. And that's what brought Tom and I together. Tom loved that I would come in knowing the songs, but I'm a player. I wasn't doing that just to flatter him. I love to learn the songs, but also it's kind of a reverse engineering so you can see the structure of the thing. So if you come in with that, the songwriter realized, you're seeing this thing on a different level, and it was great. So Dylan was wonderful. He's very funny.
Yeah.
Some of the things he said at the time I didn't even understand. You have to read him many times, but he laughed a lot. He was in a really wonderful place. It was a great thing.
Wow, what a great experience. I know, did he sort of, because I know your interview was actually deemed to be the best Bob Dylan interview. And now it wasn't just deemed by anyone, but both the New Yorker and the New York Times called it the best interview that Bob Dylan ever gave.
I love that you read this stuff. You're good.
I'm just, and also, as I said, attending your seminar, I learned so much. And I remember you talking about Paul Simon being one of your influences when you were a kid. And I think, did you do like a song based on Sound of Silence or something? Was one of your first songs?
Yeah. My very first song was just lyrics to his song, Sound of Silence. And I called mine The Look of Absence.
I love it.
I didn't even try to hide my influences. And it made no sense, but it fit metrically and the rhymes were there. That's like the beginning stages of learning how to write your own songs.
Well,
but sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to ask, like, it's such a dream come true, you being a young kid, influenced by Simon and Garfunkel, and then you end up, knowing both of them, writing liner notes on the box set for Paul Simon, and then singing with Art Garfunkel. He sings on that great track on your first album about being there, right? Being in the world.
Yes.
And what a beautiful song. When I listened to that, there were so many images, and I wanted to ask you how you got your inspiration for this, because you start off talking about this child whose eyes are the color of the Virgin Mary blue, I believe is the line, something to that effect.
Mhm.
So right away in the very beginning, I get that this kid is Catholic. Like, you didn't tell me, but I get that he's Catholic, and then you confirm that later when his mother's doing the rosary. But what's beautiful about that song is this kid's dreams. And I see you as a young child listening to Paul Simon thinking, maybe one day, right? Simon and Garfunkel, maybe one day Bob Dylan. Of course, we all lived and worshiped these songwriters. We're all influenced by them. But you ended up actually talking to them about their craft and their work. So the song that I referred to from your first album, Being in the World, you got to sing with Art Garfunkel. He actually came and did harmonies. And the dreamer in that song, this young kid, is this in any way based on you, or was it a fictional character?
It's both. I think generally when songwriters write stories, they reflect the songwriter, and it was influenced by books of John Fonte, who's a great writer, and he talked about growing up in an Italian Catholic family, which I didn't, and so some of the idea was from that. But the idea of dreaming of playing in the major leagues and the DiMaggio's pitching to you, that was what I was doing in music. And I was dreaming of that. And the truth is, I love Paul Simon more than anything growing up. I was just obsessed with him. And I learned how to play guitar and learn how to write songs by really studying his songs and learning them. Also Beatles and Dylan and other. But I didn't really understand Dylan fully until I got a little older. But as a kid, Simon and Garfunkel, and my dream was to meet one guy who could sing like Garfunkel. I'd be Simon, and I've met some great vocalists, but that was always my dream, to sing with a Garfunkel. But to sing with the Garfunkel, I mean, that was beyond it. And I got to say, I invited him to do it, and he came. We did it in Hollywood, and he could have just done one chorus, and you could fly that to every chorus, and he'd be gone. He didn't do that. He came in and he spent an hour learning my phrasing, singing in unison, and then he came up with harmony for every chorus that was different. And then the bridge, I said, do you mind doing two parts on the bridge? And he's like, well, okay, I think he's used to saying, okay, Paul, all right, Paul, whatever you need, So but he put so much time into it and care, and to this day, it's one of the best things ever to have my voice with Artie Garfunkel.
Oh yeah, and it really comes across. I mean, your voice has been compared to Cat Stevens, and his has been compared to Art Garfunkel. So what a combination. And I noticed that with the different harmonies. And I always know the arrangement of that song is so beautiful. I mean, I was listening to that song and I thought, we're going to put it up. We're going to put a link actually to it, and so
great.
people can hear it. Unfortunately, we don't have time to play it today because we'll be talking till midnight if I have anything to do with it.
I'm free. Okay.
But you have the guitar and the strings, and then you have the low end that all just blend so beautifully. And I wanted to ask you, that low end, I guess you've got an electric bass, but you also have, is that a trombone or what is that on the low end?
No, that's just the great Tim Emmons playing a fretless bass.
And
I like to do like kind of the Jocko thing that he did with Joni, where you really hear the bass, and the bass is very not everyone wants that. Even people say the bass is too loud, but I love that sound. But I had produced that just with me, and I sent it to Artie with a couple other ones, and that's the one he chose. And all the others had drums; they were a bigger sound, and he was drawn to that. So I'm glad he chose that one.
Yeah, you did not need drums. Anybody watching, please check out that song. It's such a beautiful song with imagery, arrangement, your writing, everything is wonderful. And of course, that's not, you have many songs because you've had those two albums, and of course, they've received great reviews. Another song that spoke to me was The Ghost of Crazy Horse. I mean, you've been called an American songwriter. I mean, as has your predecessors from Chicago, John Prine, of course, very American. And even the song we just heard there, Dandelion, you're referring to Texas. The song we talked about before, you said it in Boston, which I don't know, you said Fenwick Park, and I'm guessing you're a Bulls fan. Did any issues with that?
Well, Bulls is a whole other thing. That's basketball in Chicago, but I actually lived in Boston and sold pretzels outside of Fenway. So I have I must have sold for 20 games. I didn't win one.
I'm just showing my knowledge of sport right there by mixing basketball with baseball. What do I know? But I got it in that song when you mentioned DiMaggio, because that's also in a Paul Simon song, Mrs. Robinson, right? Which is
right.
He's an iconic figure, and it puts us right in there into the major leagues. And then mentioning the park puts us in Boston, and Are any of these conversations that you've had with these songwriters over the years, Paul Simon, the others we mentioned, Leonard Cohen? I mean, we haven't even talked about Leonard Cohen, but the conversations that you've had with them, how does that influence your songwriting?
It has a huge impact. It's like if you're a Buddhist and you can go talk to Buddha and ask him any question you want. I mean, I was writing this stuff for other people, but I was fundamentally interested. Almost everyone in that book, someone I truly love and have reverence for. And so when I asked Paul Simon, that bridge, I heard you describe how you wrote the bridge to Still Crazy. But what exactly did you mean? And then, I loved to, finally ask those questions I've been wanting to ask for years. Because when I was growing up, they'd interview someone like him in Rolling Stone, and they might ask him one question about the writing of the song. And I was dying for more. It was so fascinating when you'd get that. Peter Schiff did a great thing in Playboy with Lennon, where he got Lennon to talk about pretty much every Beatles song. And there's nothing better, and I just love that, when you could really get into the song. So all their wisdom, it meant so much. And probably primarily, fundamentally, I thought you talked to all the great legendary songwriters, and most of them, one of them's going to tell you the actual secret. Like, don't tell anyone else, here's how you do it. This is just between us. But no, because there is no secret. There's no repeatable method. It's magic. I mean, to connect with that. And how songwriters connect with it. They have different ideas, but what they're connecting with and how to do it. But all of them share that idea that it's not a sense of, when you're writing a song, building the thing or inventing it. It's more a sense of discovering it, bringing it in and then kind of shaping it and ushering it in.
Right. And as you say, we're all links in a chain. So we're influencing each other and, carrying the torch forward, because we can go back to Paul Simon and Bob Dylan and Leonard Cohen, but then, they can go back to Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and then all the traditional artists that came long before that, who we don't even know about. I mean, so.
Right. I should say, that was Pete Seeger's quote. All songwriters are links in a chain.
Oh, that came from Pete Seeger. Okay.
Yeah, Pete Seeger said that when I interviewed him. And to me, that became my mantra, because when I wanted to do my book, Songwriters on Songwriting, the idea is songwriters of all genres, all generations, we're all doing the same thing. We're unified. And the industry doesn't do that. They segregate us into different bins because it's easier to market that way. So there was a resistance to, like, you got Pete Seeger in the book and Tom Petty. It doesn't go together. But I finally found Da Capo Press put out the whole thing. But that's what it's all about. And Pete Seeger, gave me that idea. All songwriters are links in a chain. No one starts writing songs in a vacuum. Anyone that writes songs is because they heard a song that, hey, that was great. Maybe I can do that. So you are always building. Every songwriter you can see, and they talk about it, what influenced them. And it's fascinating. Because John Prine, I mean, you might not know, but Chuck Berry was probably his biggest influence. So it's interesting when you hear. Or like Alice Cooper, who I talked to, Laura Nero. He Laura Nero and Bacharach were like his two favorite songwriters. So it's fascinating what you find out.
And you got your first songwriting lesson from Steve Goodman. You've had this amazing run. Like, how did you get your first songwriting lesson from Steve Goodman? How did that come
You're
about?
a good interviewer. Do you do any print work? I like that you do your
sure.
homework.
Yeah, I'll submit some stories. But I mean, like, I love Steve Goodman, his sense of humor, his stage presence. He's just amazing.
I'm glad you know him. Growing up in Chicago, Goodman and John Prine were local heroes. I was like 11 when they emerged, and they were just phenomenal. And Steve Goodman, the greatest solo acoustic player ever. There's no one like him. I mean, he was funny. He was an amazing guitarist, great singer, and a great songwriter, but very unusual that he would champion other songwriters. And when he was, Chris Christopherson wanted to give him a record deal, he said, "You think I'm good? You got to hear John Prine." Normally in this business, you step over your friends. So that was so unusual. And so when I got a chance to meet Goodman, I used to do this when I was younger. I'd go backstage and say, "Hey, would you mind listening to one of my songs?" And the Chicago guys were so sweet, like Bob Gibson and Claudia Schmidt, great people. And Goodman, he gave me his big. It was really big for me then because I was like 13, acoustic guitar, and I played him one of my songs, which was pretty abstract, kind of Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, surreal lyrics, poetic. Didn't make a lot of sense. And Goodman listened. He goes, "That's good, but I'll tell you the truth. I could have written that whole song in 2 lines." And that was brutal criticism, and yet I realized he was right. But the challenge was, maybe you should try writing a song like a John Prine song, which is a song like has poetry and beauty, but with imagery and real life in it, which is harder, but ultimately way more powerful. ever since then, I changed. That's the path I tried to go on.
Yeah, I mean, he did you a huge favor. I mean, the imagery in your songs are very prevalent. I mean, the song that I mentioned earlier, and of course the one with the there was being in the world, of course, all the imagery we talked there, but also the Ghost of Crazy Horse. We have those images of souls waiting to be reborn, and that what is it? The yellow eagle flies over the brambles and the brush, and it's all this imagery. He did. You owe that fella. He unfortunately we've lost him also, and John Prine, but
and Stevie lost a long time ago, but to lose John too.
I know that was harsh. And I enjoyed your song of the Roadhouse series, actually honoring John Prine. And you know what was great too was Terry. We kept checking in with you for the historic points to say, is this right? Is this right, Paul? And I thought that's very entertaining. You're the go-to guy, because you've actually
certain people. John Prine, I worked on a movie that still hasn't come out, but a documentary. So I really delved in deeply, and got to meet him a lot, and the guys in the band and everything. And, I got so much of that from him, and he talks about that in the interview I did, that, if you give the audience pictures, they'll fill in the rest. But if you start with abstract stuff, you'll lose them. But if you show them flies buzzing in the kitchen, it's moving and it's poignant, and it's not easy to do, but he was a master at that. So,
and there's an article you wrote. I think maybe it's one of your most recent articles just about lyrics, and I think it's a series, but maybe this was the second part of the series where was it maybe Paul Simon who said you got to start off conversational, so you can't hit them with this crazy image in the beginning, but you got to bring them in with something that's very easy to understand, and then once you got them, you can hit them with all this poetic imagery. What was it Paul Simon said that?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and it's all really practical wisdom. I mean, it's not lofty wisdom. It totally applies. He said, when you start a song, start it simple, because there's so much coming at the listener. There's the music, there's the rhythm, there's the voice. You don't want to give them too much at first. And I remember he made this thing like a baseball diamond. It should start like this and go out. He said, so you start simple. He's talking about you can call me Al. It starts like a joke. A man walks down the street. He says, why am I soft in the middle? But by the third verse, it's there's angels in the architecture spinning in infinity.
Oh, my God!
So he was like, he was really interested in how you combine normal colloquial language with enriched poetic language, the balance of the two. And so I learned a lot from him, and his ideas have been shifting too, and it's fascinating to see how his thinking has evolved.
Well, and also his musical styles too. He's gone through so many, and I think one of the things that you said when I went to your seminar was, and thank you, Jimmy Yamagishi. I know he's tuned in. Thank you for bringing Paul to our SongNet meeting, because that was really, really quite a wonderful night. But I think one of the things you said on that night is what he's doing when Paul Simon is writing. He doesn't have a particular method. Like he sings over, like Diamond on the Soles of Our Shoes. Maybe he starts singing over some backing track to try to get that. But then his other ones, his earlier work, he's always just using on the guitar. Is that true of most of the songwriters that you've spoken with?
Well, it's unusual that someone would change their writing style that drastically. I mean, the guy wrote Bridge Over Troubled Water on a guitar. That worked, in all those songs.
Yes.
But he felt with his album Hearts and Bones that they were good songs, but he didn't produce them well. He figured, no one cares. I'm going to go to Africa, and I'll make the tracks first. Oops, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Live. We're going live.
That's right. It's real. But he thought, if I make the record first and write the song to the record, how can I go wrong? And I remember when he first told me that, I said, boy, that seems like a really tough way to write a song. And he goes, it is. He goes, but there's no easy way.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then since then I've written a track, and they inspire a whole kind of different song, and so really any way you do it. But that was very unusual that he did that. And he's done that for years with few exceptions. But I must say the songs he does write on guitar, there's one called Love and Hard Times. It's gorgeous. I mean, so I think the guitar method, maybe you should do more of that.
And do you always write on guitar? Is that your method?
I write on piano too, and I go back and forth. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself writing different styles on the piano as in the guitar? Because I know you do like a lot of jazz chords. When I hear you perform, you've got, as Terry Rowland said the other night, you can put that on your resume also as a ranger, because you put you put more complex chords than the average folk singer. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, the adult chords.
Yes, you do.
But
Yeah.
I got those from Simon too. He's like, well, do you know the half diminished? You know, he was showing me chords. He showed me so much stuff about how you can connect chords, you know, and
Paul, I gotta get you to do a song because we've gone way over time, my friend. But I'm gonna keep you for a couple of songs if that's okay.
It's okay with me. Yeah, is Dolly
Right.
still there? Or she's not asleep?
Oh yeah, no, we're all still here. We're tuned in, and
Well, I want to thank Dolly and JJ too, because they got me like dialed into the modern world by getting like an actual mic, so this sounds good now. And JJ very patiently made it work for me yesterday, so I appreciate that. So you ready for music?
We're ready.
I'm gonna do a song about El Segundo. I mean, people sometimes call Paris the city of light. I think it's El Segundo when I think about it. I played at that library a lot there, and they gave me a wonderful cup that says El Segundo on it, and it was on my desk, and I thought, well, it's telling me I should write a song about El Segundo, so here it goes. This is called El Segundo Love. So sing a song for El Segundo to a good old Tin Pan Alley tune. Take a walk down by the ocean under an El Segundo. Keep me deep inside your pocket. Rock away my foolish fears. Every day is a bottle rocket that runs on El Segundo tears. So anytime you're feeling lonely, I hope you know what I'm dreaming of. To take a walk down by the water with you, my El Segundo love. Now all the saints of El Segundo, they are singing sacred harmony, congregating in the shadow behind the old refinery. They say when this lifetime is over, that is when your real life begins. So we keep praying for redemption for all of these are El Segundo sins. So you can live a whole life in a minute of eternity, and spend a whole century reading your El Segundo symphony. So tell me, baby, won't you be so crazy? Maybe be compassionate instead. Even learn to love me before we're El Segundo dead. If you're ever feeling lonely, I hope you know what I'm dreaming of. To take a walk by the water with you, my El Segundo love. Yeah, that's it. So those are adult chords. That's a sixth. The Beatles often ended on that. Well, I'm going to do one more song. This is the newest song. This is my one song I wrote in lockdown. It's called Kathleen. I was reading a great book called Tom Waits on Tom Waits. Just interviews with Tom Waits. And no one talks about songwriting like he does. It's hilarious and it's just brilliant. And his wife and he have been writing songs for years. And someone asked him, tell me about Kathleen. And he said, Kathleen is a rhododendron. She's an orchid. She's an oak. And I thought, well, Tom just gave me an opening line. Clearly I have to, and the music just came like that. So that's the only part he wrote. So I wrote this with Tom, but I had to do most of it because he just gave me that opening line. So it's called Kathleen. A little more room here. Kathleen's a rhododendron. She's an orchid. She's an oak. She always helps me to pick the pieces up and sweep away what's broke. She's my four-leaf clover. She is my lucky charm. Whenever we canoe, she gets us through rapids without harm. Just the kind of girl she is. She's got a whole lot of love to give. And if she wasn't the love of my life, I would have no life to live. I would have no life to live. I got no sense of direction. I can get lost in a cul-de-sac, just going round and round, never being found. But she could always bring me back. She's my spiritual mechanic, my mystic chimney sweep. She'll always answer me with harmony when I start singing in my sleep. It's just the kind of girl she is. She's got a whole lot of love to give. And if she wasn't the love of my life, I'd have no life to live. I would have no life, no life to live. Kathleen's a jacaranda. She's a blue magnolia leaf. She's an amateur conquistador, a siren and a thief. She's my yellow sparrow, my magpie. She's my dove. She's the giddy girl of the tilt-a-whirl who fills my world with love. It's just the kind of girl she is. She's got a whole lot of love to give. And if she wasn't the love of my life, if she wasn't the love of my life, if she wasn't the love of my life, I'd have no life to live. I would have no life. No life to live. No life.
Thank you, Paul. That's beautiful. Thank you. What a beautiful love song. Both songs. And that last one you said you wrote that while in lockdown.
I did. That's my newest song. And
That is brand new.
yeah, I've been writing a few, but that's the one I finished. So
Wow.
nice to do it. Thank you, and thank you so
Beautiful.
much. It's been really great getting to talk to you. I really
Well,
appreciate it.
as I said, since I first met you probably a couple of years ago now, I've been wanting to continue our conversation. So the only way I could do it is to become a host of a show and then hunt you down
Do whatever
now
works.
now that I've done that, as Dolly said earlier, we have plans for you, my friend. So don't go leaving the country.
I heard that. Plans. That's exciting. I like that.
Yeah, let's hope so. And so, are you going to be performing with the Zollo group when we're out of lockdown?
I sure hope so. I miss being in the same room with the guys. By the way, Neil Rosengorden played on that as well as Earl Grey, and they're great. And John Cruth plays with me. And
Yeah,
I miss
Chad
them.
Watson, is Chad Watson still part of that group?
Well, he was, but I had to let him go. He wasn't cutting it really. He's not that good, really. No, I'm joking. He's great. But
I'm just like Chad Watson.
no, I played with him for years, but he's usually busy. He's got so many other gigs. But
Well, he does because
Chad's great.
Because he's such a great artist. He was actually our first musical guest on our first show 3 weeks ago, and what a great guy, what a great musician. And
He's
Paul,
amazing.
you and I are going to have to continue this another time, my friend.
I'd love to.
Because I think all the people who have tuned in thus far, I think we got to let
Bradley
them
Bob's
go
right
to
there.
bed or something. So I want to thank you so much for being our guest tonight and for sharing your music and wonderful information. And we will see you again soon.
Good. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you. And thanks to Dolly and JJ. It's been great.
And virtual round of applause, Paul Zollo. Thank you, Paul.
Clap too. We want more. I'm reading those nice things. Thank you.
Wow, Paul Zollo. What a pleasure. Music and good brand new music. That actually could have happened like in the world right there. That song was always doing wonderful stuff. Came out as a songwriter. Always very involved. And his book, I think I may have exaggerated by saying songwriting or like songwriter, not songwriting. I think it might only full of great content. More time on this right now. Hopefully we'll get it back. Okay, so I'm gonna find my apparently is not what I'm getting a message. So how is it sounding out there? Let's come back to Dolly just for 1 second because we're gonna close with just letting you know what's coming up. And if I need to adjust my mic, I am absolutely happy to do that. Still moment. Okay. So Dolly, let's come back to you for a second. If you don't mind. I'll see if I can sort this out. So guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out and I'm going to come back, and I think that's going to fix the problem. So over to you. It's good now? Okay, great. Right, so all we had to do was put Dolly on the spot, thinking that she was going to take over the show while I logged out. And then they were like, oh God, no, fix it, please. So we're just going to go through a short gig guide. First of all, we want to thank everybody who contributed tonight to the tips. People who subscribe to my YouTube channel, thank you so much. I'm up in the 80s now, apparently. So thank you. If you haven't yet and you are willing to, we would really appreciate that. And by we, I mean especially me, because then I get to personalize my YouTube channel once I get to 100. So thank you, those who have subscribed so far, and those who have supported us by donating tips, and those who are just with us and are sharing this night with us. We really do appreciate your presence. So here's a gig guide. What's going on? Facebook Lives coming up Monday, May 25th at 7 p.m. We have songs and sit downs with Owen Dara. I'll be sitting right here. My guests next week are going to be Steve Zarnecki, very interesting guy who's doing lots of stuff online, creating videos. He worked for Disney for a long time. He's got a bunch of shows. He had a website. You're going to love this guy. He's a great talker, very interesting character. And we also have the Hawthorns, who are not only making waves with their music, but also have a record label. So we're going to be able to talk to them about. They also represent some wonderful audience, wonderful artists on that label. Then Monday, 1st of June at 7 p.m., we're back with songs and sit downs. I'll be sitting right here again. We're going to be talking to Paul Loudon, who's going to be our person of interest. He is such an interesting guy creating comedy online. He contracted cancer, unfortunately, in his 30s, and he fought for his life for, I believe, about 2 years, and he barely made it through. And now he's happy, flourishing, healthy, thankfully, and he's creating content on the internet, very funny stuff. And he gives these talks about how comedy got him through cancer, and he's a really good guy. He's also in an upcoming movie where he plays Donald Trump Jr. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to him about all of that. And our musical artist is to be announced. So we will announce that at next week's show. So that's going to be on June 1st. Then June 14th, we're going to have the second Sunday Songwriter Series, and our featured artists are to be announced. If you would like to submit a song to the open mic, we love playing your videos. Please send your song and your video to divinerebelmusic.com/open mic instructions. You will see all the instructions there. And it's really a great event. It's a 3-hour event. We have featured artists playing live, and then we play the videos of other artists around town. And if it's anything like the one that we had just past, it's a wonderful event with very high caliber artists. Saturday, June 20th at 7 p.m., Sweet Sounds Around Town. Now, if you joined us this past Saturday, we had an incredible show with Emily Zuzik and Ted Russell-Camp, two wonderful singer-songwriters and just great people, conversationalists to talk to. We had a really great show, and we're following it up next month with Non-Duo, and we'll also have another artist still also to be announced, but it's going to be fantastic. That's Saturday, 20th of June at 7 p.m. I want to thank so much the people who joined us tonight, our special guests, Tony the Friggin' Clown, Darcy Lynn, JJ Shock, Dolly Ramirez, and our special guests, Jessi Fisher, and of course, Paul Zollo, our musical guest. And thank you so much for tuning in, for being with us tonight. We really do appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday night, same time, 7 p.m. West Coast time. Till then, please be safe.